Today we examine commercial real estate in downtown Cleveland with a particular emphasis on the extent to which tax-abated or tax-subsidized properties compete against non-tax-abated or non-tax subsidized properties. We're also going to spend some time examining real estate development in downtown Cleveland and real estate developers in downtown Cleveland. My guest this evening is Mr. Bruce Morrison. He is one of the owners of Properties Group in downtown Cleveland. Bruce, when people complain about tax abatement, usually what you hear is the tax abaters are taking money out of the mouths of our children. The complaint usually is that tax abated projects rob from what otherwise would be the pocket of money that would be spent on Cleveland schools. What you don't hear is that a tax abated project or a tax subsidized project competes against a non-tax abated project. Let me give you an example of what I mean. One of the retailers in the old arcade told me the other day that after Tower City opened up, his business fell off, which was fair enough. He's a big boy, he's an entrepreneur. What he didn't like was that Tower City, to an extent anyway, benefited from tax subsidies. So he, as a taxpayer, essentially created his own competitor. Is that a fair beef in your opinion?
No, I don't think so, and I disagree. And I'll tell you the reason why is that the merchant in the arcade, the friend that you spoke to, has a lower overhead. By virtue of the fact that he moved in years ago in a different kind of building. The Tower City project is something that's been financed just recently. It's got new construction prices, it's got new mortgage rates, it's got a much higher rental rate. Except if they're selling the same product, if they're both selling a pair of shoes, both at $10, and the cost basis with your friend is $2, and the cost basis over at Tower City is $5, your friend's making $7.
But I don't think that's the argument. His argument is that, look, I didn't get any kind of tax subsidy, nor does my landlord have any kind of tax subsidy. Yet, as a taxpayer, I am indirectly financing this group over here that's built this wonderful mall, which benefits the city to be sure, but directs traffic there, which would otherwise come here, and therefore what I've done is created somebody that's competing against me. That's his argument.
You know, it's brought people downtown, and to the extent they drive by the arcade, there may be one car out of 10, out of 100 that may look up on their way to Tower City and say, why don't we stop there? So it brings more traffic downtown. It's much like a mall concept out in the suburbs. You have your anchor and you have all the little tenants in between. It creates an environment. People attract people, and that's what it's doing in an indirect way over time. Will there be an immediate impact? No, but over time, more people will come downtown to shop at Tower City. They'll be in Tower City 2 or 3 times, and then they begin to come out in the street. Spring comes out, sun comes up, grass gets green, they say, let's take a walk, and they're down at the arcade front door. So it's going to happen immediate? No, but it's going to become a more acceptable shopping environment, the whole environment. People are not going to go to Tower City just to go to Tower City and stop at the door. So I think in the long run, he's going to begin to benefit from it.
Okay, I recognize that you're a real estate developer.
I'm going to take that position.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about tax abatement in general then. What I started out by saying is some people argue that tax abatement is a bad thing inasmuch as it takes away monies that would otherwise go to the schools. Address that issue.
Well, we've gone through the argument before through the media and also on the street that, you know, to the extent there are new projects, they create space, new people move into that space, new employers which pay income taxes, and there's that incremental add. So it may, in that the school or the city or the governmental authorities may not get additional monies through the property taxes, but they're getting additional monies from another source. Let's just say, for sake of argument, income tax. But also there's more people now downtown, and they're going and buying merchandise in your friend's store at the arcade, or they're going buying lunch, and those employers or those owners of businesses are also paying taxes, and their business is healthier because of the business or because of the employees coming in from the new buildings.
Well, do you sympathize, for example, with a guy who owns a commercial office building, again a non-tax abated or non-tax subsidized commercial office building, who complains that through taxes, either directly or indirectly, I have built a guy who's going to compete against me for tenants.
And that argument was used recently, by the way, when the Society Center's tax abatement was put forth. If 2 projects are brought to the market at the same time, and they are similar projects, and it's common for the lay people and even for people in my business to be very generic, you know, as I said earlier. But if 2 properties are brought to the market at the same time, and for whatever reason, through the political process, one property is able to secure tax abatement and the other property is not, then it probably is an unfair process. But you know, we've seen both in the Voinovich administration and more recently in the White administration that there has been a policy put forth that we would provide tax abatement, for an example, for mixed-use projects, projects that would consist of an office building and a hotel. Why are we doing that? Because hotels are very, very difficult to develop, to finance here in downtown Cleveland. And we feel that we need to inject a little more oomph into the machine to get that kind of property. They have not given tax abatement just to one hotel project and held it back from another.
Do we need more hotels downtown Cleveland?
Yeah, I think we do, and I think the people within the industry who know more about that specific type of real estate would also agree with me. And the reason for that is they're trying to attract the convention business here to Cleveland. And whether you have 3 or 4 rooms or you have 300 or 400 rooms, if you don't have 600, you're not going to get the convention. So you need to have a magical number. I do not know what that magical number is, but we are quickly approaching that by virtue of the fact that the Radisson and the Ritz-Carlton have both been opened recently. The Sheraton has been improved. The former Bond Court Hotel has been improved and turned into a Sheraton.
Right.
And of course, we're within months or a year from the Marriott opening up. Okay. And then we have the continuing presence and re-strengthening of the Stouffer's Hotel downtown.
We're going to digress just a moment. I recognize your focus is on real estate and your knowledge is sort of in the downtown Cleveland area, but recently the mayor has announced a sort of fundamental switch in the philosophy of tax abatement and has said that tax abatement heretofore, from now on rather, is going to be used for neighborhood development.
Great.
How do you feel about that?
Great. I like it. Personally, I like it. I don't know if everybody in my industry would agree with me, but personally, I like it. I subscribe and believe in the concept that the downtown city is only as strong for the long run as the neighborhoods that surround it. And for whatever reason, over the last few years, most of the activity has been downtown.
Is it going to work if you use tax abatement for housing? Will that attract people? Will they come in? Will that do all the things the mayor wants to happen?
Part of the tools that go into the bag. And we do need to have competitive financing rates. That's part of the reason why the state has been very, very active in securing tax-exempt status for housing bond issues that would hopefully be brought to the market shortly in order to provide financing to first-time buyers at below market rates. It's part of the arsenal. Another reason why the city is very active and becoming more active, I understand, in assembling a land bank where if you don't pay your property taxes, in lieu of going after you for your past taxes, we'll take the land bank, or we'll take the land back, put it into a land bank, and then offer it to a first-time buyer for $1 as long as they agree to build a house. Okay. So it's part of the tools, and tax abatement on the property taxes, I think, will help.
With our remaining time, what I want to do is sort of bounce around downtown Cleveland, talk about a lot of different projects, a lot of different people, get your reaction, your analysis of what's going on.
There's plenty to talk about.
Let's talk about what you touched on earlier about the convention center. We have a convention center downtown. It competes against the IX Center near the airport, both of which right now are entertaining the Home and Flower Show.
Yes.
Is there a future for the convention center downtown Cleveland? Is it going to at some point just get wiped off the face of the earth by the IX Center downtown?
Well, I don't think so.
IX Center by the airport,
I don't think so, because the convention center downtown is a part of the system that's in place downtown, and it's being improved by virtue of the fact that the hotels are being brought online, and Galleria and Tower City and things of that nature. It's also part of the amenity package that the city of Cleveland has, and it's a city-sponsored entity, as we all know.
How did it happen that we ended up with 2 Home and Flower shows, one at the IX Center near the airport and one downtown Cleveland, running exactly the same time? How did that happen?
Well, we're in a capitalistic environment, and the strongest survive, and there evidently are 2 groups out there that think that they can offer a product, they can offer a Home and Flower show to the market, and they either think that one is better than the other, or that one will push the other out.
Are they both going to make money this time?
I can't tell you that. But it's just the same as the 2 hot dog vendors that show up in a corner. Why are there 2 hot dog vendors? There's only need for one. Well, I mean, we're in America, and bottom line, and it's a capital, and someone's taking a risk. So keep in mind, the IX Center is a for-profit enterprise. I mean, there's a group of people out there who are taking a risk, and they've been out there for some time. And I would assume that they have that they've been making money by virtue of the fact they're still in business. I don't know if there's such a market out there that justifies the existence of both the IX Center and the Convention Center 365 days a year, but obviously time will tell.
Talk about the impact of the Renaissance Center on Playhouse Square.
Now, the impact is that the Renaissance Center is the first new office building in that area in, I believe, 50 or 60 years. It's brought more legitimacy to that portion, or that center of town, as a legitimate office location. As recently as 10 or 15 years ago, the only location for the financial district would be the corner of East 9th and Euclid. And Public Square has reemerged by virtue of the fact of BP America has come online, this Ohio building, and Tower City. Well, the same thing has happened now to Playhouse Square with Renaissance Building.
Is that building going to work? Is it commercially viable?
Well, right now, it's...
I think I heard something about some major tenant going bankrupt.
Leventhal Horvath
went bankrupt.
Was a lead tenant.
They had already signed and they went belly up, and now there's this big office.
Leventhal and Horvath, as I understand it, signed a lease for that building perhaps as long as 2, 3, 4 years ago. In fact, it was a prerequisite before that building could commence construction. I am sure that there's a lender who took the position that I'm not going to provide the money to you, the developers, the builders of this building, until there's sufficient leases in place. Why? Because the rent pays the mortgage.
Okay, we're going to take a break right here. My guest is Mr. Bruce Morrison, owner of one of the owners of the Properties Group. We'll be back in just a moment.
Now, Cleveland's top-rated news can be seen on CNN's Headline News. News Center 8 and North Coast Cable have come together to provide an exclusive service to North Coast customers. Twice every hour, day and night, Rick Young and Denise Dufala bring you the latest news from the North Coast on CNN Headline News Channel 12. Headline News and News Center 8 on North Coast Cable. Just one more way we're increasing the value of cable to your family. Exclusively on North Coast Cable.
Improving your chances of surviving a fire in your home can be easy. Installing a smoke detector and keeping it properly maintained is the smart way. Smoke detectors are inexpensive. Many models are available for under $10. The smoke detector alerts you when a fire is still in its early stage and time for you and your family to escape. Tune to the North Coast Cable Community Bulletin Board for additional safety tips.
I'm Larry Robinson from the Antwerp Diamond Center. You might be wondering what you can do to help our military people in the Persian Gulf and those who returned. You can support the American Red Cross. The Red Cross has been providing vital services for our troops, their families, refugees, and other victims throughout the crisis. The Red Cross needs your help. Please give to the American Red Cross Gulf Crisis Fund. Call 431-3010 for information. 431-3010. I'm Larry Robinson.
Now you can take a tomato, put it in boiling water for about 15 seconds, plunge it into ice water, and the skin will peel right off. But if you're only doing 1 or 2 tomatoes and you don't feel like going through the boiling of water, and if you have a gas stove, you can just take the tomato and hold it right over that gas flame. Then it's a very, very simple matter to just pull off the skin.
Grab your customers through the power of TNT.
Oh, you big lug.
Let me hear you purr.
Unbelievable!
You just put your lips together and blow.
Advertise locally during the classic movies, high-profile sports, and exclusive premieres on TNT. Call your cable operator today.
Nobody can catch my knuckleball, but you can catch Sports 101 with Jeff Sindelar on Channel 46 on North Coast Cable.
Classes in session Saturdays at 10 o'clock.
When I'm in Cleveland, I watch Sports 101 with Jeff Sindelar.
Welcome back. My guest is Bruce Morrison, one of the owners of the Properties Group, downtown Cleveland. Bruce, the Gateway Project, has that made Tom Chema, who's managing that project, a, quote, major player in real estate development in downtown Cleveland?
Absolutely. Absolutely, without question. By virtue of the fact of the impact of that facility, just the brick and mortars, the physical impact that's going to make in the surrounding area. So I would say definitely he's a major player in downtown real estate development.
Go over the specifics. What kind of impact is that project going to have? What do you mean?
Well, there's going to be a new building that's going to exist there, and there will be an enterprise going on inside, obviously, sports teams, baseball and basketball, and there'll need to be support services for that, eating facilities, parking facilities, things of that nature, and there'll need to be a roof for both those operations. And the reality is the immediate surrounding neighborhood right around that gateway site consists of buildings that for the most part are inefficient, obsolete, a lot of which have been torn down. So it'll make an immediate impact.
Did you vote for it?
I'm not a Collier County resident, so I didn't have an opportunity to vote for it.
Would you have voted for it had you been living here?
You know, at the time...
It's an old battle, but I wonder what your reaction to it is.
Yeah, you know, at the time, I think I made the comment to other people that I interact with that I would not have voted for it. I was bothered because of the financing methods that they're using. And
do you feel any more comfortable now?
I haven't, I've not focused on the financing methods because the reality is it's over with. I mean, it's going to be financed. That's done with. Now, there are other issues to deal with. The building's coming. So I'm not going to spend time worrying about whether or not it should have happened. It's coming online. It's done.
North Coast Harbor.
Yeah, quiet project. Don't hear much about it.
What's going on there? I mean, I haven't heard anything in a long time.
Yeah, you and I both.
I wonder whether that's a successful project. Are things happening along the lines of what people thought would happen? Is it going to be a white elephant? Is it going to be successful? What's going on with that project?
It's obviously moving slower than I think people anticipated. As we understand, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will be locating. I don't know if that's a formal announcement or not, but that's what I remember or have heard recently.
Was North Coast a good idea on paper?
I think it was a good idea when it was conceived in the early to mid-'80s. Festival marketplaces, quote unquote, was a very, very hot product in the real estate development business, much like Harbor Place in Baltimore, which the Rouse Company developed, Faneuil Hall in Boston. And I think as soon, in fact, I can remember watching TV and seeing George Voinovich waltz through Harbor Place in Baltimore, saying this is what we want for North Coast Harbor.
It's going to look like this someday.
Yeah.
Whose project is North Coast? Whose baby is that?
Well, it is a public entity. Maybe it's more appropriate to say a quasi-public entity, but I don't think there's any private interest that actually have title. At this point in time, there's been a group put together for the purposes of master planning that as a representative of county, state, city authorities in order that to be one place to go. And they may be taking a different approach, much like a lot of other things that take place here in town perhaps, in that they're going about it in a very quiet, methodical way. And what improvements they've made today, cutting out the basement at, or the basin at Pier 34 and things of that nature, looks good. But some of the ideas that they had originally, there would be a hotel, there'd be office, there'd be residential. The reality is the financing is not in place that can provide those improvements. So they may be forced midstream to change gears and do something different there.
Let me just fire off some names of people that I understand are supposed to be, quote, major real estate players in downtown Cleveland. Okay, David and Richard Jacobs. Well, and you just give me your analysis, your reaction to them on how competent they are, what projects they're working on right now, impact on Cleveland.
My impression is that they are very, very competent. They're obviously the principals of JVJ, one of the biggest regional shopping center developers in the country, been around for years, also own the Cleveland Indians here in town. Have probably been one of the two major players in the downtown market in the last few years. They developed Galleria, and they're currently developing Society Center. Good organization, good people as far as I know, and without question having a major impact on downtown real estate.
You said one of two. Who's the other major player?
I would say the Ratners, Forest City. They're the ones, as most of us know, who developed Tower City. Did a fantastic job when you think about the logistics that are involved, not so unlike what went on perhaps in the Middle East with Desert Storm or Desert Shield, to the extent you have all these variables that you need to organize in a very short period of time. And they all come, they work on the project, and then after a year or 2 years or 3 years, they all go away.
How risky a project was that?
Well, I mean, it's very
were they
risky.
rolling the dice? I mean, were they putting sort of their balance sheet on the line, and if this project didn't fly, they'd be in trouble? How risky was it?
Well, first of all, they're a very sharp organization, so whatever risk they took, they knew about up front, and they measured and made a business decision. But there are some interesting ingredients in that kind of a project. It is a mixed-use project, quote-unquote jargon that we would use. And the reason for that is it has a hotel component, an office component, a transit component, a retail component. The idea being that one would feed the other. The idea being that if one got soft, the other components within the project would pick it up. Was it risky? It was risky from the standpoint when they first began the project and they began investing venture capital, working capital in the project, and not being able to see light at the end of the tunnel. Do we know that the building would be financed? We don't know that right now. We're spending money on plans, we're spending money on consultants, we're spending money on attorneys. Do we know it's going to happen? But they got to a point where it got to be a go or no go. They decided to go, and they could see light at the end of the tunnel.
Is the project going to work, Tower City?
I think it will work. I question how strong the retail will be in the long run. We have yet to see Neiman Marcus. And Neiman Marcus wasn't envisioned to be there until 92 or 93. Now with what's happening nationally and also from a financing perspective with the economy, will Neiman Marcus still come? I don't know. I don't know. I think you probably need that component to act as an additional draw to get people to walk through Tower City a number of times, not just 1 or 3 times.
We only have a few more minutes left to go. Let me fire off some more names. Bill West, who's with, I understand, Ostendorf Morris.
Bill West is the CEO of Ostendorf Morris, probably the biggest commercial brokerage firm here in town. And they have an impact in the marketplace from the perspective they do control a lot of product, and to the extent that they push that project in a direction, it impacts the market.
Carl Milstein.
Been in town for a long time, has a nationwide perspective associated with Associated Estates, owns a number of high-rise apartment buildings built in the mid-60s in the lake. Number of people are tenants of theirs through their apartments.
What does he own downtown?
Owns the Statler office building. It used to be the Statler Hotel on 12th and Euclid across from the Union Club, and the Halley's building.
Let's talk about the Ameritrust project. Why hasn't that taken off yet?
I can only assume, from what I read in the trade journals and from talking to my peers in the industry, that the Jacobs and the other decision makers within the organization are simply very pragmatic, in that there's a lot of office space in the marketplace right now. They want to react to the market, and there's no reason to build a building just to look at it. And by the way, while they're looking at it, they have to pay the mortgage payment on it, so it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Will the building eventually be built, in your opinion?
Well, a building will be built on that site by virtue of the fact of the location. That corner is too valuable, and to have it just be a parking lot. Also, it's too important from a planning standpoint to have a corner, a public square, with a surface parking lot on it. I mean, there should be something there. Will the Jacobs do it? I don't know. But there will be a structure there, a major structure there, that may be an office building or an office building hotel at some point in time in the future. And the future could be 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. But there will be something there, for no other reason than the location. And that's exactly what the real estate business is. When it's all said and done, is location. They've got the best location.
The Flats, still a hot area?
Still a hot area, perhaps has not become as organized as people had hoped or envisioned. It's slowing down a little bit because of the financing environment that exists right now. The West Side has...
The West Bank.
The West Bank, yeah, excuse me, where the Powerhouse is located, for example, where Shooters is located, has a much bigger impact. A lot of it has to do with Richard Jacobs' son, Jeff Jacobs, and his organization. And he's into the 3rd or 4th phase of his development scheme, and he was able to take control of a big piece of property at West Bank and able to master plan it. The reason why I make that distinction is the East Bank is a number of individual restaurants and bars and retail establishments, and they're still attempting to get organized on that side to have a common look to it.
Okay, we're out of time. My guest has been Bruce Morrison, who's one of the owners of the Properties Group, and I thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good evening.
When the world's top golfers get together, you'll never know what to expect. Swing through the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, and the Cadillac Senior PGA Tour. ESPN brings you the best. It's unpredictable. It's exciting. It's live. It's golf on ESPN.
Nobody can catch my knuckleball, but you can catch Sports 101 with Jeff Sindelar on Channel 46 on North Coast Cable.
Classes in session Saturdays at 10 o'clock.
When I'm in Cleveland, I watch Sports 101 with Jeff Sindelar.
Now, Cleveland's top-rated news can be seen on CNN's Headline News. News Center 8 and North Coast Cable have come together to provide an exclusive service to North Coast customers. Twice every hour, day and night, Rick Young and Denise Dufala bring you the latest news from the North Coast on CNN Headline News Channel 12. Headline News and News Center 8 on North Coast Cable. Just one more way we're increasing the value of cable to your family. Exclusively on North Coast Cable.
One trick when you're using honey is any recipe that you do with honey, if you're also going to use oil as one of the ingredients, try to use the oil first, because what will happen is the oil will coat your utensil. In this case, it's coating my tablespoon, but if you were using a cup measure, it would coat that too. And then when we go to put in a tablespoon of honey, it'll slide right off that spoon.
Local advertiser. Your customers turn on the most believable TV news, CNN. They watch CNN for award-winning live coverage of world events, for invigorating talk and debate shows, as well as to find out what's happening in the world today. Your customers turn on CNN, and your local ad can be there.
Improving your chances of surviving a fire in your home can be easy. Installing a smoke detector and keeping it properly maintained is the smart way. Smoke detectors are inexpensive. Many models are available for under $10. The smoke detector alerts you when a fire is still in its early stage and time for you and your family to escape. Tune to the North Coast Cable Community Bulletin Board for additional safety tips.
Cleveland Public Schools do not stand alone. 66% of 9th grade Ohio students failed to pass all 4 parts of the mandatory basic proficiency tests: reading, math, writing, and citizenship. In Cleveland, the failure rate was 90%. The solutions: more money, better teachers, longer hours, voucher systems, and even new school boards of education. Children who are read to read. Young people whose parents practice good citizenship become good citizens. What is needed is a change in parental attitudes. When parents give first priority to an educational partnership, then and only then will schools be successful.